Welcome, everybody. This is A Plus Parents. And I have to tell you, this is our initial podcast, our very first one. So I had to go out and find just the perfect person to have as a guest. And so who did I find? Well, I found the person that first found me when I was first getting started in this industry. So Mary Prather of Homegrown Learners. I'm so excited you're here. I want to tell everybody a little bit about Mary so you know who she is. And I'm going to read my notes. So excuse me for a second. I'll grab my notes here as I know Mary, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But Mary's a mom and Mary's married. So she's been married for 24 years to her husband, Hal, who's awesome. They have two amazing young people, one in college, one in high school, and I have got to work with both of them. So one thing that Mary and I have in common is we're both former public school teachers. So Mary and I have that, I always call that the recovering teacher, syndrome, right? Being able to get back and find what you do life after being in the public school. But Mary's master's degree is in educational leadership. So she really knows the inside and out of how schools run, what they do, which is really amazing. And she thought for herself, she was always going to be in the public schools and have a career in public schools. Well, it didn't turn out that way. And here we are now. And as we see now, it's kind of like Mary's going to tell her story and tell you about what she does. But one of the things out of becoming and leaving the public school was she got to develop her own program, which we'll get to talk about, which is Squilt, and Squilt being a music appreciation program for young people. So she's going to tell us about that as well. But really, it's about talking about what is it like for me, it's always amazing to know someone that has been a mom, has been a wife, has had a business, has done homeschooling for as long as you've done it. And your hair looks great. You look great. If I pulled your hair out, mine fell out, right? But when you get here and here you are and what that looks like. So, with all of that, right? First of all, welcome. And I guess for people to know, when I first met Mary, I was just getting started in the homeschool market, and Mary came up to me and found me at a convention, and she said, "Hey," she said, I write this blog, and if I could check out your classes, let me know, and then I can write about it. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a great idea. Well, it turned out to be, I've met so many people now because Mary introduced me to that world. And what I got to meet was your family as well. So knowing that was for me, that was probably the turning point for me of what helped us launch our own business and career and really getting our name out there. So it's so dear to me that you're here. I can't say that enough, really. So awesome. Tell us about kind of who you are, what you do, what you might want to add to what we've already created.
Okay. Well, was that 7 years ago?
It was.
Trying to
Isn't
think
that
back.
amazing?
It was probably about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're both still here. We don't
We
look
are.
like we've been hit by trucks or anything like that, right? Yeah. Well, that was a very generous introduction that you gave. Thank you. I guess, we always thought that our children would grow up in public schools because my husband and I grew up in public schools. I was teaching in a public school when my daughter was born, and then 9/11 happened. And so I did not go back to work after my maternity leave with her. I couldn't do that. She was born 6 weeks after 9/11. So that made my decision for me. That was very providential. But when it came time to put her in kindergarten, our school system, we were going to be at the largest elementary school in our county, and there were 17 kindergartens. And the thought of me putting her in a school that had 17 kindergartens really was difficult for me. So we did not decide to homeschool. I had a friend that was homeschooling, and I thought, well, she has trouble letting go of her kids. That's why she's homeschooling. She just doesn't know what she's going to do when they go to school, so she's homeschooling them. So we moved to a smaller school district. And so Anna went to a school that had 4 kindergartens. And the whole time that she was there, I just felt like I could be doing it better. I was always at school volunteering. I was up at her school teaching music. I was volunteering on the advisory board. And by the time she reached mid-3rd grade, I just noticed that she in particular was getting equalized. There were the extremely gifted children that received a lot of services. and there were kids that had special needs that received services, and she was right in the middle. And she was quiet and she was compliant. So she really didn't get much of anything.
Mm.
And we decided in the middle of her third grade year that we would start homeschooling. My son was still in preschool at that time, so I let him finish up preschool, and then I homeschooled him too because I thought he's a live wire. I thought he's going to be in trouble all the time. And what I knew about homeschooling, I just knew then that I could do so much more with him at home.
Mm.
And so that was, I mean, Anna's a junior in college now. So, I mean, that's kind of our story. That's our story in a nutshell.
And I'm thinking people listening right now, there was this event called 9/11, and 9/11 changed your life. And we've had an event in the last 2 years called COVID, and COVID has changed people's lives. So
Yes,
people
yes.
looking at the same thing and how they're doing things and what they thought it might be and what it
Uh,
looks like now. There may be some people that are exactly in a similar situation, not the same situation, but similar, because they're looking at, I'm at home now. And more people I think now work from home than ever
right.
before. And they're finding out it's great, right?
Yes. Yeah. It takes a breaking point, and maybe making a decision kind of against your will, than to see that that was the best decision, you
Right.
know, all along. We certainly didn't think that we would do it forever. I mean, I thought maybe we would do it for a couple of years till we saved up enough money for the private school.
Right.
Um, but then everything, it just all snowballed, and here we are.
Yeah, I understand my own kids the same way. It was like, we brought them home and they're flourishing. They're really flourishing. So
Yes.
I know when moms are listening, one of the things that they want to know is, and this always is amazing to me too. How do you shift hats? How do you change hats? So you go from mom to homeschool teacher, from homeschool teacher back to mom, from mom to house cleaner, to taxi service, to wife, right? How do you is there something that you notice that kind of like is your trigger that says, "Ooh, I got to put this hat on now," or is it seamless or smooth, or maybe it was just something you developed over time?
Yeah, that was one of the hardest things. And I can even remember Anna saying to me, I just wish you would be my mom.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
yeah, that was one of the most difficult things for me. And I had to learn that sometimes not every single thing was going to be a learning opportunity. Sometimes I just had to stop and just be her mom and not be as critical about things.
right.
When the kids got older, it helped when I could give them to people like you to, outsource a subject. Because then for math, I'm not as much their teacher. I'm more their encourager, and I'm more of mom. So it was, yeah, it was a careful juggling, and my husband helped a lot
Mhm.
with that part too. Because if I could offload some things to him so I could be mom a little bit more too, that was helpful.
Oh, that's awesome. So, the partnership developed over time. You said
Yes.
something really interesting, because I know we run into this now, especially for people that are really discovering online education and how that looks. So, people find me and they find our math program, and it's very true. It's like, people, they may not feel like, remembering geometry or getting into advanced topics and upper algebra and algebra 2, right? Not the things that you want to spend your time doing during the day. You've got all these other things, right, already ready
Right.
to go. So when you have there's someone like me that's here, that's delivering the curriculum and the content and the instruction, and we're here to support the students. So what becomes your role then as mom in being able to kind of see how it's going for her?
Right. I think then I'm a coach. I'm watching this year with my son who's 16. I'm his coach. The other day he got a not so great grade on a chemistry test and he was very frustrated. And so I said, he didn't think a few of the answers that he deserved to have them wrong. So I coached him through an email to his teacher, And she was very appreciative of the fact that he'd gone, to bat for himself. So then I kind of see myself coming alongside my kids. I'm here, I'm doing my work, I'm running my business, but I'm always available in case they need me for a little bit of assistance along
Right.
the way. I feel like we're graduating. We're starting to, he's getting ready to launch. This is what's supposed to happen.
Right. Oh my gosh, what a great life skill too. So he's saying, okay, I want to reach out to the teacher. Well, what happens when you're working and you want to reach out to your employer and something's not going well, you want to have a conversation?
Right.
It's like to be able to be there as the coach, as the person that can help him craft the communication. And then for him to be able to do that, it wasn't about what was actually on the chemistry quiz or test. It was more about how does he communicate and how can he get his point across with someone else. That's just great. I mean, it's just
Mm-hmm.
really, really great. And I think that's one of the things that what we are able to do in the homeschool market, like it allows us to be able to do that we can actually encourage our kids to develop those kind of life skills that they're going to use outside of that. People say, they always tell me about, when am I going to use math in the real world? And I always laugh because I'm like, well, wait a minute. If it's the real world, then what world are you living in? Wait, you're living in a pretend world, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I always say it's, math outside of a classroom, right? So here's these skills that people can take or kids can take outside of a classroom. So that's awesome.
Right.
That's really great. Well, one of the things that, we look at, and I know Grant he's a Lego guy, right? And Anna's in music and, so you
Yes.
have these different, they have these different passions, that they
Mm-hmm.
have. And how do you, as a mom, align with their passions? So often I know it's like, I played baseball when I was young, and I was a musician when I was young, and my parents always encouraged me, but I kind of knew deep down it was like they kind of hoped I didn't go that route. Like it was like, I'd be a professional baseball player, too short, and you don't run very fast. So there was.
Right. Right. Well, I think a lot of it, I have a blog post that I wrote a long time ago called Follow That Child. And I just feel like I kind of follow them with what they like to do. When Grant expressed an interest in Legos, it was about a year before I met you that I was at a conference and I just went and I camped outside the Lego education booth. Their table wasn't even up yet. I just sat there until they put their table up. And I said, "What do you have? I have a little boy that does this. Could we use your materials? I could blog about them." So, and I can't build a Lego set to save my life. I mean, he brought me home a little set this summer and he talked me through it, and it was pitiful how bad I was at it. But just providing him the opportunities. If there were classes, I signed him up. I always made sure he had enough Legos. I taught a Lego Classic co-op, so he could have a group of buddies that would share his interest. It was really just, and having fun with it. Those things are fun. I mean, they're great memories that we've made together.
Oh, that's awesome. I always like Legos because I always tell kids the multiplication tables are built into the Lego. If you just count them, make little rectangles, and it's like, they're always like, they're really, that's always, that kind of blows them away. But, just to be able to support, to just love on them for what they love to do and to let them
Yes.
know it's
Yes.
okay. How often that we don't know the secret, passions that are inside of them until we let them explore. And a lot of times when they're in a school situation and they're doing the same thing every day, they may have some passion they don't even know exists, and it turns into more frustration when they're at home.
Right. Well, exactly. I mean, like right now, we're pursuing a passion maybe in some graphic design. And so we're taking a Photoshop class. And he told me he didn't feel like he had enough time to really play with the
Mm.
program outside of class. So we're backing off on an American history that we were going to start together. And I said, let's put that on the back burner so you have more time to do, this Photoshop thing. So sometimes it's just giving them the time and carving out that space for them to do what they need to do.